fine. Everybody jumping out of their mind. Everybody going out of their skin. See, we get to the end, but that's where we begin. You feel it? Mannequins and we breaking the mold. Breaking out and we breaking the codes. Similar to the jack who stole to the depths in your wet, so you take explode. So get it out. Send your body to flight. Everybody got a target tonight. Everybody come along for the ride. All you studs and your duds and your ladies is fly. Grip the moment like you're gripping the earth. Feel a weight and you're feeling the girth. Now you get it, now you're feeling your worth. Fitness how you used to make when everything used to hurt. It goes, oh, no time to rest. Just do your best.
Welcome to Virginia International Raceway, the host of the season opener for this season of the Alpha Touring Challenge. I'm your host, Logan McKenzie, and welcome to another incredible season of racing that we have lined up for you starting today here in the rolling green hills of Virginia. 130 feet of elevation changes here at VIR, and plenty of drivers are going to be looking to start their seasons well here today. This is the third time the VIR has hosted the season opener, and both of the previous times that happened, the race was won by Micah Hendricks. So we will be looking to him, the defending champion, for victory today. Oak Tree may no longer be here, but the difficulty of the corner still remains. The weather today, partly cloudy. The sun will be setting as we get later in the race, so the track will be cooling down. VIR itself, a beautiful facility. It was originally opened in 1957 and then closed in 1974, only to be reborn in 1998 as a much more modern facility. It is big, the laps are long, and it while it is modern, it still really evokes the feel of a classic old school American track. There are no runoffs. If you end up off track, you're punished immediately by going through the grass. This is the layout of the track. It is 3.27 miles. Our pit speed limit today, 37 miles an hour. So it's going to take a little bit to get down pit road. Let's head down to the grid to take a look at some of the drivers and teams that will be starting the first race of the season. Micah Hendricks sitting in second position. He's now racing for the newly minted Croc Hunters. Those guys have managed to steal away Micah Hendricks from his former team, Curb Your Enthusiasm Autosport, and the leader of SIA is sitting right behind him on the grid. There he is, Francois Schink in the Honda Civic this season. He'll be looking to continue SIA's incredible run of success, going for that third straight team championship. And last season, they brought home the trifecta. There is five-time champion Logan McKenzie sitting pole on the grid. This is his fourth pole in the last 6 races. The last time someone did that was Micah Hendricks back at the start of season 8. The B4D drivers, breakfast for dinner, all lined up on the grid. John Lazon's going to lead them off. And then you have David Bauer and the team's leader, James Carr, sitting back there. Any of those guys could battle for the lead. And this season, they've added Delta driver Jacob Wally, who's a little further back down the field. He has a career win to his name, so maybe he can do something out there today. SRG is back this season with Damon Mitchell and Ian Bertolucci. Dan McFarlane will be here as well, but not here today. Jason Breen and the Yart team are here, along with Kyle Murray further on down the field. And I believe the third member of Yart is not here today. But behind Jason Breen, there he is, the reigning Delta champion, Mark Darnell. He was a key part of bringing home that trifecta for the SIA team. Now he's an Alpha driver this season. Let's see what he can do. Connor Acatella back leading off double yellow today. Anthony Harrison leading the 4 OGs, and Christian Ost in that complex Simworks car. He leads that team off today. It looks like Jacob Wally in the pink box car behind them, and another Yart driver. There is Kyle Murray, and I am hearing that Evan Clavijo, the third Yart driver, is on the grid. Fuad Al-Rijla representing the Motorsports Racing team today. He's their only driver on the grid, looking to make a good start to the season. He had a couple great finishes towards the end of season 10. Bear Pope is back. There's a few other new drivers towards the back of the grid. Everything is set to play for. Season 11 starts now. Now let's take a look at today's starting grid. And with our grid set, let's take a look at the track and the conditions for today's race. So it's a 60-minute race. There will be 2 pit stops expected in this one due to limitations on the car's fuel tanks. 26 degrees Celsius air temp. The track temp is around that, maybe a bit cooler, and it will only cool as we get later into the evening. Not much wind, not a whole lot of humidity. It's pretty good conditions for racing out there. So let's get down to it. Logan is on pole, and we have about 40 seconds before the green flag. So McKenzie wins 2 of the last 4 races last season. Comes very close to nipping the championship away from Micah Hendricks the last second, but fails to do so. Meanwhile, in the Delta class, the championship did get nipped away at the last second by Mark Darnell over Brian Saab. So Saab, McKenzie looking for revenge this season. Darnell now in the Alpha class. What can he do? We are about ready to receive the 5 red lights as gridding wraps up. And season 11 of the Alpha Touring Challenge is a go. McKenzie leads them off the line here at Virginia International Raceway. Hendricks and Schink battling into turn number 1. You got 2 B4D drivers side by side behind. Schink's going to try and take that second position. Hendricks going to hold the outside line. Lots of jostling for position further down in the field. McKenzie has the lead. Hendricks looks like he's going to edge out Schink, but now Lazan looking for that third position. You have Zepka and 2 going side by side back there. The B4D drivers are now going side by side. It's Lazan and Bauer battling for 4th, and James Carr, their teammate, right behind them. All 3 B4D drivers right there. Then behind them, the 2 SRG drivers. So those teams really filling out the back half of the top 10. McKenzie in the lead. They are now starting to go single file through here. And now up through the S's. This is where it gets dicey. Look at this. Look at these cars going up those elevation changes. 130 feet worth of elevation changes here today. And we are seeing that play out right here as they go up and over these crests. And now down to where the old oak tree stood. Lightning took it out in 2014, I believe. iRacing recently updated the track, so now the tree is gone for good. But the challenge of the turn still remains. You got one of the 4 OGs going off track back there. That looked like Anthony Harrison. And now you have a car parked up on Oak Tree. That is Jason Lynn. So the Complex Simworks driver running into some issues back there. He's able to get back onto the track, it looks like. And now up into roller coaster. McKenzie's not opened up any kind of gap. You see side-by-side action there. It's Acatella and Harrison wheel to wheel and into roller coaster. Looks like Harrison's going to edge him out. Look at this section down through the final 2 corners as they come through here. This is Hog Pen, the last 2 right-hand sweepers. And it looks like Logan McKenzie will lead us off this first lap at VIR. And season 11 is officially underway. So Hendricks, Schink, Lazan, Bauer, and let's jump back here because Damon Mitchell going on the inside of Raymond 2, and it looks like he's going to pull that one off, and Matt Zepka is going to try and follow him through, and that's going to be a difficult one to do because now it switches back to a left-hand corner, and 2 has the advantage. He goes through. Oh, and now 2 goes off track, though. Look at that. He goes a bit wide, and Zepka's going to get through anyway. So now Zepka up to 9th. That is 1 position gain for him since the start of the race. B4D drivers are back to back here. It's Lazan, the lead car, then Bauer, and then Carr is the 3rd car. We have a car off track, it looks like. No, Spencer Clark may have just gone off track for a moment. He's running behind Daniel Smith. This is the battle for 22nd. Spencer Clark's already gained 2 spots in this race, and I think he just backed off down the straightaway, so he may have had a slowdown. Not sure about that one. We got another position change up into Oak Tree. 2 takes the position back from Matt Zepka, and that is a very difficult spot to do that. But Zepka probably didn't want to make too much trouble of it this early in the race. Look at this. Are we 3 wide? Christian Ost is leading Jacob Wiley and Anthony Harrison there as they come down the backstretch. It is Ost now going to the inside of Acatella. This is for the 13th position, and he blows by him on the straight. Look at the straight line speed of that Honda, and he pulls in front. And this is Acatella's view right up on the back of Ost, but nothing to do. And that's a great move by the Complex Simworks driver to get into 13th. Up to the lead of the race, entering lap number 3 of this 4-hour race. McKenzie still leads Hendricks, but it is a very slim margin. And Shinks are on top of these guys as well. And look at this, Hendricks going a bit wide, so Shinks going to stick a nose up there. But just difficult to do that on the inside of that corner because you get a lot of momentum around the outside. And then the next corner is a left-hand sweeper. So you really have to work the car in front of you to get around them. The slipstream in these cars, not super powerful. So although we have some long straights, drivers are going to want to be really alongside the car they're trying to pass before the corner to get a really good shot at them. Because otherwise the defending car can get such a good exit that it's difficult to do anything. On the gearbox of McKenzie here, looking back at Hendricks, 5 minutes into this race, let's talk about strategy. So there are 2 pit stops in this race. They have 25 liters of fuel in their tanks. So those should go about 20 minutes. Oh, we had a bit of a slide down there, it looked like. It may have been Damon Mitchell. Yes, it was Damon Mitchell, but he managed to gather it up. So around the 20-minute mark, we'll see pit stops, and then around the 40-minute mark, we'll see pit stops. The frequency of the pit stops means that fuel saving is going to be a lot more difficult. It's already kind of difficult at this track, but it's going to present an interesting challenge for these guys who are looking to gain positions on the stops. And we're going to go a little further back down the field. Looking at Jason Breen on the tail end of Mark Darnell. Breen currently the Delta leader out on track, and Ost is trying to hunt him down. Yart won the inaugural Delta Team Championship last season, and Breen currently the lead representative for that team on track so far today. The other drivers being Kyle Murray in 17th, and Evan Clavijo, who's running in 33rd, unfortunately. He had some kind of trouble at the start of the race and has dropped 5 spots since then. Brian Saab looking to the inside of Daniel Smith, and they're going wheel to wheel behind the car of Brian Son and into turn number 1. Saab has a nice advantage, and he's going to fully take advantage of that. And into turn 1 he goes. He's up into 21st, and that puts him P8 in the Delta class overall. We're jumping back to Jacob Wiley. Wiley is in 15th right now, but that is P3 in the Delta class. This is Wiley's first start in the Delta, or the Alpha Touring Challenge, in, I believe, 2 seasons. His last start being towards the end of season 8, so I guess that'd be 3 seasons. So it's nice to see him back. You see Harrison looking up the S's. Oh, they're going to go side by side through the S's. This is difficult. They're going to make it work. Oh, Harrison's not going to, though. And right into the barrier and straight back across the track. Drivers are going to have to avoid him, and he tows instantly. That is a brutal wreck. That is, to start the season, that has to be one of the most brutal wrecks I've seen in the last couple seasons, just in pure G-forces imparted on the driver. That it was not pretty, and Harrison's day may have ended before it began. Now the drivers do have a fast repair, essentially a spare car, but he still has to, it still takes time to get the car towed around the track, and he was, let's see, where was he on track? Essentially on the opposite side of the track from pit lane, so that's going to be about a 2-3 minute tow, unfortunately. We'll jump back to this battle because Daniel Smith's still on the back of Brian Saab. He's not been able to escape. But so Daniel Smith has Brian with an A and Brian with an O in front of him. But so far, he can't get past either of them. And now Spencer Clark has rolled up on the back of this crew. So that's 4 cars back to back to back to back. In the battle for P19, Brian Son is currently P7 in the Delta class, though. So that is a battle for a pretty high class position. We're going to jump back to the battle for the lead real quick and look at this. I mean, McKenzie not opening up any kind of gap on Hendricks. So let's talk about the cars behind him, because the leaders are all in a row here. There are 6 cars attached to this little train. And while the slipstream in these vehicles, the slipstream's not incredibly strong, it is still present. And whether McKenzie has the pace to escape or not, Hendricks is going to be able to hold on to the back of him, and or whether he has the more pace over Hendricks or not, this group's going to be able to hold on the back of him and fuel save. And McKenzie being in the lead is in a bit of a tough spot because he can't fuel save where he's at. And I think I just saw a car go a little wide there. David Bauer does go wide. That's going to cause him to lose this group, this lead group. So now that's down to 5 cars, and B4D loses a member of those guys up there. Unfortunate for them, he slots in between the SRG drivers, is now the meat in that sandwich in the battle for P6. Let's see if something happens up into roller coaster. That's Damon Mitchell having a peek on the B4D driver, but can't get his nose up in there before the turn. And now we're seeing the field start to settle in a little bit. With it being a 60-minute race, guys aren't going to be as racy as in some other instances. Here's a little 4-car group led by Mark Darnell. Then you have Jason Breen, Christian Ost, and Connor Acatella. 4 different teams represented right there. And they are currently battling for 11th. So this is pretty far up the field, and these are the Delta leaders as well. Ost has caught the back of Breen, and Breen right now just trying to hold on. This is an interesting situation because here the Delta leader can actually fuel save behind Mark Darnell. So although Ost is behind him, maybe fuel saving, Breen also in a position to take care of that as well. But he's currently running in the overall 12th position. I see Jacob Wiley just had a little venture off track and has dropped to P16 behind Kyle Murray and ahead of Adrian Fedorowski. Fedorowski had made a couple appearances last season and has returned to SIA. And look at this. Oh, Brian Son on the inside of Daniel Smith. That looks like a little net code. Smith's going to have to go off track, rejoins, and now this is a 6-car group right here. Look at this. Let's get on the back of this little band. Franco Aguirre. Oh, he goes around Daniel Smith. Smith lets him through, and he also lets Joel Duton through. Those two making their first start in the Alpha Touring Challenge Series, and they are running 22nd and 23rd. Franco's gained 5 spots in this race so far. Joel down 3, but still running with this group of cars. And now Clark under pressure from Brian Saab, and he makes the move as they come up into Oak Tree. A difficult spot to do it, but if you know that you are braking later than the car ahead, you can really spook them off their line. Not a whole lot they can do when you stick a nose up into Oak Tree. Look at how close these guys are. Is Clark going to go for a move on Saab into roller coaster? He might. Let's see if he pulls out. He's going to stay behind, and this 5-car group is only just on the back end of Brian Son further ahead, who's now gapped that group by about 8/10. And now the leaders are battling. McKenzie side by side with Hendricks, who has gone in deep to the outside of turn number 1. McKenzie slots back ahead of him, and wow, Hendricks is right on top of him. This is close. Does he go for a dive here? Difficult, but can't do it. Hendricks has won both season openers held at VIR in the past, looking to make it a hat trick. But he has not won all the races at VIR in the past. The one held mid-season was won by Edward Gorman. I believe that was one of Gorman's 3 career wins. Gorman not here today, but hopefully we'll see him a little bit this season. As they come through the S's, McKenzie still holds this lead. We're 13 minutes into the race, so pit stops coming up within the next 10 minutes. We'll start to see people figure out when they want to pit. Generally, so here's the deal with pitting in these cars. Tires, the tire model on these cars right now is pretty invincible. So the drivers are really only worried about fuel. The tires do not get slower. So as a result, lap times only get faster throughout the race because you're running out of fuel. So the car is fastest when you have no fuel in it. Pitting early for some of these drivers may be a way to undercut and get around cars ahead of them, but only if they know for sure they're faster than the car ahead. Because generally, staying out that extra lap or two, you're going to have a second or two advantage over people who have pitted because you just have that extra lap of less fuel in your car. So we'll see how that plays out as we get closer to pit stops. But just something to think about because nobody's really going to be taking tires in this race. A bad exit there on the last corner by Raymond 2. And Zepka is going to get a chance to go back around him. These two have been battling back and forth throughout this race for the 9th position, while at the same time kind of closing in on this group that includes the 2 SRG drivers and David Bauer. Kyle Murray taking a peek at Adrian Fedorowski into turn number 1 on that outside line. It can be hard to hold, but if you have the advantage past the apex, you can get a nice little run, but just a little too wide, and Fedorowski slots back in front of him. And he's going to take a little peek right there. That is a move that is possible if you catch your opponent off guard. He's experimenting with it. He's being very aggressive with Fedorowski right now, trying to throw him off his line. We'll come back to this battle in a moment. We'll loop back up to Bertolucci. Ian Bertolucci running 6th. Haven't talked about him much. He is right where he qualified, along with teammate Damon Mitchell. So the SRG drivers haven't moved, but they're doing a good job of leading this sort of secondary lead pack. Behind the primary lead pack, you have 5 cars here, so you have the top 10 split into 2 packs. There's the first pack, and there's the second one. Although Lazan and Carr are a little bit further back than, say, Hendricks and Schink are from the leader. 1/4 of the way through this race, and there's a little shove to the rear end of McKenzie. Hendricks letting McKenzie know, I'm faster than you. Just letting you know, I'm going to try and get past you on this pit stop here. I'm sure he's fuel saving a lot. Let's jump back to Brian Saab, because he is now in the back of Brian Son. It's the battle of the Brian S's. And this is for P7 in the Delta class. Saab started in 19th, so he's just trying to get back to where he started. But Brian Son up 6 positions, started in 25th in this race. So he's having a pretty great run here thus far this evening. Micah Hendricks is now side by side with Francois Schink into this corner. I think he may have tried something on McKenzie and ended up more at risk from Schink. But that shows, even if these guys are fuel saving, he's still taking shots every once in a while. Because if you can be ahead of the next car as you come into the pits, that's about a second advantage. It's no small thing to just have the position, the track position. And now, Kyle Murray and Fedorowski going side by side through the same section, and Fuad Rizla is going to try and take advantage, and that is, can he finish the move? Yes, he can, around the outside. And that really helps Fedorowski because he's created a nice little gap for himself. That is a 1.5 second gap to Al Rizla there. Now Rizla is one of only 3 Audis in the field today. It's a rare breed, maybe not as rare as the Hyundai Veloster, but even so, it's just Damon Mitchell, Fuad Rizla, and Franco Aguirre who are in the Audi. As for the Veloster, I'm fairly certain Daniel Smith is the only driver who has braved the Veloster these days. Discontinued in real-life racing. It lives on in iRacing for now, but we will see how long that lasts. Saab, and a lot happening up here. Saab's lost the position to Spencer Clark down the straightaway. Maybe a bad exit out of Oak Tree. Clark's had a good race so far today. He himself has gained 6 spots. And he's been sticking with Son as he's cut through the field. Both those guys, they started next to each other, and they've continued up the field with each other. Hitting the 18th minute mark in the race. Jason Breen still holds the Delta class lead, and he's still hanging out behind Mark Darnell, although Connor Acatella has gotten around both these guys. He was behind Ost and Breen, so now he's closed up to the tail end of the Alpha field. And look at this, Ost going for a move for the Delta lead, and Breen's gone a little wide to accommodate. Ost has gone a little deep. He's gotten into Acatella, and that was just a messy situation, and Ost is now letting Acatella back by, and Breen has recovered, so that was a bit clunky. It's allowed Jacob Wally to catch up to the leaders, and now the whole Delta podium is right there on top of each other. No instant replays available to us, so not able to see exactly what happened there. From what it looked like, Ost goes a little deep, trying to make sure that he outbrakes Jason Breen. Jason Breen goes a little wide to give space and gets into the grass. Ost gets into Acatella, and they all managed to keep it together. You know, no one's in a barrier. It's been a fairly clean race so far. I think the Anthony Harrison wreck, it's been a while, but from what I recall, that was mostly him losing control. We saw Jason Lynn spun around. He's had a nice little recovery drive. He's currently sitting in P27 overall, P14 in the Delta class. He started in 24th, so despite the spin, despite the damage, he's not too far off of where he was. And so hopefully he continues that way. The top 30 score guaranteed points, so he is in the points right now. And then if you finish 50% of the laps, then you get sort of pity points at the very bottom. So it's good to just get those laps in either way. Let's see, Micah Hendricks really under pressure from Schink into turn number 1. And Schink getting into the back of Hendricks there. So a little bit of impatience up and down the lead pack. Except for these breakfast for dinner drivers, Lazan and Carr, they have to have been having fuel saved a ton because they've just been chilling back there. Carr especially is known to be really good at fuel saving, so we'll keep an eye on those guys as pit stops come in. And look at this, Kyle Murray, the first driver to come down pit road. Looks like Joel Douton may have just made a pass on Daniel Smith or stayed ahead of him. Those two were very close heading into turn number 1. So Murray, the first driver to pit, and he was sort of wrapped up in this group back here. So he may be pitting, going for the undercut. Maybe he had a little bit of damage, might as well. If you have the fast repair and you have some damage, pit a little early, use the fast repair, and then you're out. But that was on schedule, so that's just kind of an early pit stop. Expect to see others come in. Look at this. Oh, Spencer Clark going around Brian Son out here. Now we might see more battling up the S's because it is Brian versus Brian. And it looks like Son's going to back out a little bit, and Franco's not going to push the issue. So there is another. We've seen now 2 or 3 times people trying to get up the S's side by side, and I didn't expect people to be that brave, if I'm being honest. Franco under pressure from Joel Douton, but nothing going there. Daniel Smith trying around the outside. They're all stacking up as they come around Oak Tree. A few very distinct packs have developed here. Interesting to see. It kind of shows that the slipstream is having some effect. And now a bunch of leaders are down pit road. We'll check on them in a minute. Watching Daniel Smith go around the right side of Douton. And he clears him before the next corner. So McKenzie, Hendricks, Schink, Lazan, all down pit road. The SRG drivers are also down pit road. Who stayed out? It's James Carr and David Bauer. They saved at least 1 extra lap of fuel. We'll watch pit lane here to make sure that the leader comes out in front. And it shouldn't take long. Look at this. Hendricks out of his stall first. And McKenzie was, I think, the last out of his stall. Schink and Lazan didn't beat him out, but Hendricks did, and he now has a 1.8 second lead. That is huge. And look at this. Here come Lazan is battling with, that's Brian Saab, because Brian Saab also didn't pit. So this is a battle for position. I mean, this isn't blue flag. Saab can totally go for this, and he is going to. Why not? On Lazan. A whole nother group of drivers on pit road now. We're going to keep an eye on James Carr as he comes through Oak Tree. So he's about halfway around the track. A lot of the field on pit lane now. Jacob Wiley has inherited the Delta lead. by staying out. Brian Saab's out. We're looking at Christian Ost, who has already pitted, and he is still ahead of Jason Breen there. But Wally, the only breakfast for dinner driver who didn't save an extra lap was John Lazon. So that whole team, great job managing the fuel. James Carr will pick up the bonus point for leading a lap and should come down pit road now. I'll be surprised if he managed to save a whole nother lap over just 20 minutes. That would be pretty impressive. See Bauer 6.7 seconds behind him there, and Carr down pit road. And we'll just keep an eye to see if Bauer does the same, and he does. So looks like these guys are not going to be able to go another lap. Here's Jacob Wally. So the 3 breakfast for dinner drivers are going to come down pit road on lap 12. Just 1 lap later than the 4th breakfast for dinner driver, John Lazon. And he's going to come down. So we'll keep an eye on Christian Ost. Brian Saab will make sure he comes down pit lane. But Micah Hendricks is going to retake the lead, or take the lead, for the first time in this race. And it is quite a lead. It's 1.6 seconds. When they came out of the pits, it was 1.8. So McKenzie's cut it down a little bit. But we'll see if Hendricks holds it or starts to pull away. It could be good. Raymond 2 is going to battle Damon Mitchell down the straightaway. And look at this. There's David Bauer coming out of the pit lane, making this one interesting. And 2 is going to dive to the inside. Oh, there may have been a little contact. 2 gets a little squirrely. And they all tuck back in. Jacob Wally has come off a pit road behind Ost and Breen. So the Delta lineup remains the same for now. And they are still behind Mark Darnell. So they may continue to fuel save for the next pit stop. Should be interesting. Hendricks that lead at 1.5 seconds. Schink is 1 second behind McKenzie. So we'll see who gains here. Will Schink be faster than McKenzie? Will McKenzie be faster than Hendricks? This is the first time these guys have kind of had real space to flex their pace in this race. And if I could stop rhyming, I could talk about James Carr, who is behind John Lazon after saving those 2 laps. So he didn't necessarily, or saving the 1 lap, he didn't necessarily gain any time on his teammate. That is fine, because now he has a lap banked, essentially. So since he pitted a lap later, he's automatically going to pit a lap later next time around. So if you can save another lap of fuel, then you are suddenly 2 laps up. And maybe then the advantage becomes pretty big, and you can jump some people on that second pit stop. We'll go back to Raymond 2, because he's all over the back of Bauer. Wasn't able to get it done the last time they were in turn 1, but that doesn't mean anything. He could come back at him again if Bauer has a bad exit out of Hogpen, or 2 really nails the exit. Oh, there's a car off. That is a Croc Hunter's car. It's not Micah Hendricks. It is Spencer Cockayne. That was scary for a moment, because Hendricks was not far up the road, and that could have easily been him. But no, he currently has a 1.4, just under 1.4 second lead. I think McKenzie closing in on him a little. Schink has closed 2/10 on McKenzie. So I think these guys are about to close back up, in which case that could be trouble for Hendricks. And here's why. I believe Hendricks may have short fueled. That is, taken maybe 1 or 2 laps less of fuel, maybe even 3 laps less of fuel, in order to jump McKenzie in the pits. He's tried this strategy before. Last season at Lime Rock Park, McKenzie leading the race. And then in the pits, Micah jumps him. And he eventually opens up a 4-second lead because he knew he was faster than McKenzie and was trying to open up enough of a lead to stay ahead after the second pit stop. It didn't work then. What happened was Micah came out maybe less than a second behind McKenzie, and McKenzie held on to win. This, it looks like, is a similar strategy. If it is, he might be screwed, because that strategy relies on the driver doing it to be faster. You have to open up a gap so that when you pit again, the time you lose pitting a couple laps earlier is offset by the time that you just gapped the car behind. But now McKenzie is back to a second off of him. It looks like McKenzie, he might be faster, he might be getting a little help from the slipstream, But Hendrick's strategy may be falling apart here, and the danger to that is McKenzie's pulling Schink, Carr, and Lazon with him. Hendricks could easily be jumped by more than just McKenzie at the next stop, so we'll keep an eye on that. Breen still on the back of Delta leader Ost. Wiley saved an extra lap of fuel, so he's got the advantage over these two, but nobody's short fueled in this instance. McKenzie just went purple, set the fastest lap of the session. So we'll look. What have been the fastest laps of the session so far today? A 156.65 for McKenzie. Schink did a 56.78. And there's a car, another one of the Croc Hunter cars off track. These Delta leaders, both lead packs have been very close together throughout this entire race. And they have been the closest battles on track, really. Breen is right on the back of Ost. We are closing in on the halfway point of this race. The track starting to get a little bit darker as the sun starts to set in the sky. It's currently just after sometime in between 6 and 7 p.m. in the sim, I believe. And sunset sometime just after 7 p.m. The race ends around 7, so the sun's not going to set. It's not going to get dark, but the track will cool as a result. And look at this run. Breen has a shot. Will he try and get him up the S's? He thinks better of it, and I don't blame him. Some drivers are not going to be comfortable sending it up the S's. And we're only halfway through the race, so no reason to get desperate for the lead yet, especially when you can continue fuel saving. There's smoke ahead, so someone's had an issue, and I think it was David Bauer, because he went off track. He went off track not too long ago. I'm not sure. He spent 1.5 seconds off track, so not sure he lost a whole lot of time. But I mean, 2 is also back there. He and Raymond 2 have lost the SRG drivers of Ian Bertolucci and Damon Mitchell. They're running behind. That's a lapped car of I think that's August Blondal. Logan McKenzie has caught Micah Hendricks, and he's done so while pulling away from Francois Schink. So now McKenzie has a shot at doing a little bit of fuel saving, or if he's fast enough to just go around Hendricks, but then, you know, you probably aren't going to be able to pull away from Hendricks with the slipstream. So this is a great spot for him, actually. It's Hendricks, this has suddenly flipped. This is the risk-reward of Hendricks' strategy. This is the risk, because now McKenzie's on the back of him, and he can fuel save, and Hendricks knows he's down 2 or 3 laps of fuel. So this is trouble for the Croc Hunter driver trying to open his championship defense with a win. His primary rivals are right behind him, looking to take advantage of a strategy that might be going slightly wrong here. Of course, anything can happen, and after the pit stops, there's always the chance to make a pass for position on track. We've seen these guys not try too much of that. It's mostly just been fuel saving, so there could still be some serious battling left in the future. Track position may not be everything at the end of this race, but we'll see. We're seeing someone's gone off track. It was, looks like Brian Saab has had a little venture off-road as he runs in 19th, defending against Franco Aguirre. He is still in P7 over on the Delta class. He is not moved from that spot all day. That is where he qualified. Hendricks now only 0.2 of a lead over McKenzie. Breen, it's the same thing with Ost and Breen. They're trying to navigate some lap traffic here. That is the first time the rookie Jimmy John driving the Jimmy John's Honda Civic. So he lets the Delta leader, Christian Ost, through, and this is going to help out Ost a little bit. There's nothing that any of these guys can really do. It's just where they caught them in the track. Jimmy John can let them through on the next straightaway, but they're going to lose a little bit of time through here. Maybe not. I mean, Jimmy John's kept a good pace through those last couple corners, so I don't think that's hurt Breen or Wally all that much, but Wally may try and do something here. Let's go on board with the breakfast for dinner driver. Let's see. They're gonna try and go to the inside of Jimmy John here. Get past the lapped car. He lets them through. And Ost's lead continues to expand as he holds on to the back of Mark Darnell. Let's go down the order here. We're halfway through the race, so let's take a look at what's going on. Micah Hendricks on the alternate strategy. Can he make it work? Can he pull it off and bring home a victory? It's possible. 27 minutes to go. He has been in the lead since the first pit stop, going a little bit wide there, just trying to hold on to that lead. McKenzie probably in the best position of anybody in the lead pack, aside from maybe James Carr, who's up to 4th now. He's in a prime position to take the lead after the next pit stop, as long as he can hold on to the back of Micah Hendricks. Francois Schink is also there, and he is well close enough that if those two start fighting, or if Hendricks isn't fast enough, he'll close right up to the back of them. But in the position he's in right now, he can't do a whole lot of fuel saving, as it seems like he's just trying to keep up with those two. The slipstream is not super helpful unless you are within a second. So he's really, he's got to wring everything out of that thing that he can to keep up with those two and keep himself in contention. James Carr, sort of the same thing, because he's well off the back of Schink. He did a lot of fuel saving in the last stint. Let's see if he can pull off the same in this one, despite the gaps here. He needs the gaps to close up if he really wants to be able to take advantage of that as well. John Lazon started in 4th, now in 5th. It's been a quiet race from him. No real issues. He slid behind team leader James Carr, but otherwise he's in a great spot for a top 5, as long as he doesn't let the SRG drivers, who are 6 seconds behind, creep up throughout the end of this race. Ian Bertolucci and Damon Mitchell, the teammates, have basically been running a nice little practice by themselves for a lot of this second stint. Bauer and 2 dropped off, and now these guys, they're not really fast enough to catch the group ahead, but they're fast enough to keep Bauer and 2 behind, so they may be a bit lonely for the rest of this race. But 25 minutes left. We'll see what goes on. Whoa, something's happened. Christian Ost and Jason Breen, the Delta leaders, are in the barrier. Breen's gonna have to limp this one out. Ost is gonna pull back out onto the track, and this may have ended. Breen might have a damaged car the way he is acting. Let's check. Yep, that thing is not steering straight. It is crab walking, and Breen. Yeah, it is definitely crab walking. Breen, look at his steering wheel. He's going straight, but he's steering to the left. That car is going to have to come back down pit road, and hopefully he has not used a fast repair. Also, I'm not certain that if he pits now, he'll be able to make it to the end on fuel. It may be a bit early. So this has kind of happened at the worst time for the Yart driver, and when it looked like he was going to have a shot at a Delta victory to start the season, it's all come apart. Him and Ost have come together in that corner in some way, and that has resulted in Breen and Ost being knocked out of contention for the Delta lead. But who has that benefited? Jacob Wally on his return to the series. He is currently in P13 overall with a 10-second lead over the next Delta driver. Let's look at this battle for 21st. The Bryans still going at it with Joel Duton right behind. And Saab currently holding on right there. Ost is having to pit as well. Maybe he has a meatball from the accident. Meatball flag meaning you have too much damage. It's considered too dangerous for you to stay out on track. You've got to come in to repair. So Ost and Breen both may get back to pit lane. And their days are essentially done in terms of battling for any real meaningful positions here. They may still be able to bring home some points, though. Hendricks still in the lead of this one. We haven't been checking back up there too much because I think a lot of fuel savings going on. This battle has been going on for quite some time now. Saab and Son. We'll go back down. We'll go back to what we were doing, which is going down the order before we were interrupted there. Matt Zepka we'll go back to David Bauer because we were talking about the SRG drivers. They're working their way around a lapped car now. I'm not sure who that is. I think it's Gunnar Schmidt, who's currently running in the 29th position. Bauer running in 8th. He started in 5th. He's had a couple of off tracks that have caused him to lose the lead pack, but he's still shown great pace, and he has a chance to bring home some good points today despite losing a couple positions there. Raymond 2, he's where he started, so not a whole lot to complain about, but maybe a couple of missed chances to get by some cars ahead. He is, at the moment, not faster than anyone ahead, so you could say he's where he belongs. But you could also say he maybe deserves to be, or had a chance to be, ahead of David Bauer at this point. We'll see if he's able to finish that move off at some point, but it kind of seems like he's just hanging on to the back of the breakfast for dinner driver at the moment. We'll interrupt our run through the field for a moment to look at this battle for P17. Smith hanging on to the back of the number 356 car, Franco Aguilera, and he has brought home 10 overtakes so far today. No, excuse me, 13. 10 within class. So Franco started in 30th. He's currently in 17th. That puts him on track for the bonus point for most overtakes. Showing some real naked aggression today. He made a lot of those overtakes with Spencer Clark, who has gained 10 today himself. He's running a bit on his own back there. But we'll continue running through the field. Matt Zepka is at the very tail end of the top 10, and he's maybe having a bit of a lonely race. The closest car to him is Connor Acatella, 6 seconds behind, and then 10 seconds to Raymond 2 ahead. It's turned into a bit of a test session for Zepka. Just got to keep it on track and bring home good points for the team. See his top 2 drivers right now, Francois Schink and Matthew Zepka. And the top 2 drivers from each team are the drivers that score points for the team in the race. So the teams with more drivers don't have an advantage in quantity, but they have, more chances to get quality. And look at this, Hendricks having to come down pit road now. So McKenzie reclaims the lead. Schink is 6/10 back, then Carr another 5/10 back. And this is the moment where we see how Hendrick's strategy plays out, because he's not even in his pit stall yet. So we'll wait on him. We're going to see Zepka go by, maybe. Here he goes now. Former teammates. And he goes by. Hendrick's still on pit road. And Connor Acatella goes by. There goes the lap car Brandon Shelton. And Mark Darnell is also going to go through. Jacob Wally is going to go through. And no one else. But that is trouble. If I were Hendricks, I would have really liked to be ahead of Mark Darnell. Now he is at risk of getting slowed down immediately here. Acatella going a little off track there. Manages to gather it up. We were just about to talk about him after Matt Zepka, who's running in P11 before Hendricks pitted. And he's had a pretty nice race. He's gained 3 positions so far. Mark Darnell, reigning Delta champion, but not defending Delta champion. He's decided to go ahead up and try out the Alpha class, see if he can be a part of that competition. Right now running P11 overall. Was running, of course, P12 before Micah pitted. He's had a pretty solid day, leading a few large packs of cars, and really has never been under any threat of being passed by those cars behind. Jacob Wiley, while you could say he's definitely had luck go his way, he has also driven up the field. He's gained 5 spots so far today, 4 if you don't include, 4 if you don't include Micah. 2 of those were the Delta leaders wrecking out in front of him, but he's shown great pace, and he's been where he's needed to be. And he's on the cusp of bringing home Breakfast for Dinner's first Delta win in quite a while. I think since Wiley was last on the team. Micah Hendricks runs behind him, and look at this, Hendricks been behind him this entire lap. That is devastating. It's hard to really, there goes Shelton a bit off track. He's lapped, so that'll let them go through. And Hendricks, this is a battle for position, so these guys can fight Hendricks if they want to. They're under no obligation to let him by, and why should they? Because Wiley and Darnell are fighting for their own points, but Hendricks is going to get the 1-2, maybe, and that's going to help out Jacob Wiley. He'll get alongside Darnell, but Darnell will have the sweeper to the left coming up, and he takes that position back. Kyle Murray back on pit road. You remember he pitted pretty early last time, so not surprising to see him there. Then Franco Aguirre and Spencer Clark all on pit lane as well. So those are the early takers. And these pit stops will be shorter than last time. Last time around, the pit stops took around 15 seconds. Now they're taking a little over 10 seconds to fill the cars up for the second stint. McKenzie, man, Schink is right on top of him. He has closed that back up. It's a 0.2 of a second gap, and there are 17 minutes left in this race. We're probably going to have about 30 or 31 laps of racing to give you an idea of the target that we are aiming for. And Shink's going to dart down pit road. He's out of fuel. So now it is just McKenzie, Carr, Lazon goes in. And that's interesting here. So now you see who has taken that second stop and who hasn't. Schink, Lazon, Bertolucci, Mitchell, 2, all coming down pit road. Bauer stays out. He saved enough last time. Zepka goes in. This is, we're going to watch this. This is really important. The gap between McKenzie and Carr when they come down pit road. This is a really important lap for both these guys because Carr wants to be right on McKenzie's bumper towards the end of this lap, whether they both go into the pits or not. We'll look back here. Bertolucci's going to come out still ahead of Damon Mitchell. 2's coming out of pit lane now. We'll have to keep an eye on him and David Bauer to see if Bauer's able to stay ahead of him. McKenzie and Carr about halfway through this lap now. We'll go on board with Carr as they come up through Oak Tree to give you an idea of how difficult this corner is. Really sweeping through there. And now down, this is the run towards Roller Coaster. And it really is a roller coaster because he's going to take the slipstream all the way up the hill. And then we're going to go down the hill. And then we're going to go back up the hill into a hard braking zone to the left, to the right. And then we're going to drop what must be, 2 or 3 stories down these 4 corners as we head to pit road. Who's coming down pit lane? And it is McKenzie. It is not Carr. Carr saved at least one more lap of fuel, so he will continue on. McKenzie is on pit road, and the last few cars coming off pit road now. And James Carr he knows he's coming in this lap, and you saw him flashing his headlights. The reason he's doing that is he is letting the lapped car of that is Brian Son ahead of him. He's letting him know, hey, I need through. Hey, I really, really need to go, like now, because this is his only chance to pass McKenzie through the pit stops. So he's just got to hope that Brian Son doesn't hold him up too much here. I don't think Kirk Lane, that Bear Pope car that just went by, I don't think he's going to get in the way. Son's under no obligation to let Carr through yet. Drivers are expected to let lead lap cars through within a lap. This isn't the best part of the track to be letting someone by. And I expect he'll let him by after Oak Tree. It's going to slow Carr down a little. He may lose a half second here. Maybe a little less than a half second. But let's see if he does get let by now. 47 minutes into this race. 13 minutes left. And there he goes. So he's going to, he only lost a little bit of time through Oak Tree. It's going to be really interesting. Let's look at the overall gap on the left side. So that's the overall gap everyone has to the leaders, or the leader. And Bauer's 16 seconds back despite having not taken a pit stop. There's been some big gaps open today, despite the size of the field. So we're watching Carr. We're watching McKenzie. McKenzie did come out ahead of Schink, 1.7 seconds. So here we go, the moment of truth. We will jump to McKenzie. He's currently about to come through Roller Coaster. And there he goes. Damon Mitchell battling with his teammate, Ian Bertolucci. This is for P8. It will be P7 by the time the pits cycle. And into roller coaster, he's got it. Back to James Carr. He's coming out of pit lane, and there's McKenzie. Oh, this is gonna be close. We're gonna go on board with McKenzie. Carr is off of pit lane, and he's ahead. He's ahead. I think he's gonna be ahead into turn number 1. McKenzie is hard charging, but look at this. James Carr has pulled off the pit strategy. There's nothing McKenzie can do there. On the apex, he's parked it, and Carr is into the lead. And that, is that the 4th lead change we've had today? The 19 is gonna pick up some laps led here as well, and he's gotta hold off the 01 car. This is gonna be close, because McKenzie is going to be right on him. 0.3 of a second gap. And 11 minutes to go in the battle for the lead. Micah Hendricks, because of the traffic he encountered, he got cycled all the way back to 4th, and he is 4 seconds off the lead. That's him right there. That is how that strategy just ended up not working out for him, and now he may not even be on the podium after making 80% of all podiums last season. A crazy percentage. McKenzie pulling right up to the back bumper of Carr through Oak Tree. The Delta lead is pretty much wrapped up, so this, unless Wiley makes a big mistake, so we're gonna hang out right here for the last 10 minutes of this race. We're about to come around to lap 26. And McKenzie not close enough to try anything in roller coaster. If these guys start to fight, Schink is only 1.5 seconds back, and really, Hendricks isn't that much further back. When you start battling in these cars, you lose time quickly. So anything could still happen. Oh, Carr going a little wide. I said anything could still happen, and that may be it. Let's see. McKenzie's going to go for a move. They come across the start-finish line. Lap 26. There's maybe 5 laps to go in this race. McKenzie goes to the outside of turn number 1. Gonna go for a crossover move, and he's gonna get his nose in there, side by side with James Carr. Out of turn number 1, into turn number 3. Going for another little crossover. Carr defends that one, but can he defend this one? McKenzie sticks his nose up in there as we come through this slow section. And, oh, there's a little contact. Maybe Carr keeps McKenzie to the outside. He can't pull off the crossover there. So now what's it going to be? As they come through the S's, oh, McKenzie's right on his bumper, and he's looking for something. Going into the S's, is this going to be the moment of truth? They're going side by side for the lead at VIR. Up the hill, through the S's. McKenzie cuts through the dirt, not able to do anything, and he backs out. And this battle for the lead still rages on. Schink has closed a full second since this lap started. So this is now a 3-way battle for the lead. And McKenzie right on the back of James D. Carr, the number 19, trying to do everything he can to hold on and win breakfast for dinner, trying to get the inaugural victory of the season. Let's watch. Does McKenzie go for a move here? He's not super close, but he may still try something. And coming down the roller coaster, takes a little peek, and they go in, and it looks like Carr's gone a little wide. Carr's been faked out by McKenzie. He went a little deep, and McKenzie now back into the lead after everything that has happened. Carr does slot back in ahead of Micah Hendricks. So stays on the podium, but now it is down to Logan McKenzie and long-time, all-time rival Francois Schink. These two have been battling since the start of Season 1, and here we are, the first race of Season 11, and they are separated by less than a second, battling for the lead with 8 minutes to go in the race. And to kind of talk about what happened there, McKenzie putting Carr under some insane pressure on that lap, but it looked like Carr had a pretty good advantage going into roller coaster. McKenzie just putting a nose there to let Carr know he's there, and Carr just breaks a little deep. He was lucky he didn't go even deeper. It can be once you start going down that hill. He could have easily fallen off the podium, but he may end up under pressure from Micah. Micah is about a second off of him. And Mackenzie just trying to maintain this 6 to 7 tenths gap from Schink, because once you get even closer, it gets even harder to keep people off of your slipstream. And this is not the first time today that Schink has been directly behind Mackenzie, but it is the first time he's been behind Mackenzie while Mackenzie had free air, a clean air in front of him, as opposed to Mackenzie like following Hendricks. So that is something to keep an eye on. Let's check out on Jacob Wally. He has a pretty big lead in the Delta class right now. It's a 22-second gap. So he's just got to bring this one home, and he will win on his return to the Alpha Touring Challenge. Anthony Harrison coming into the pits. We should talk about Anthony Harrison because he did not retire when he had that massive crash. He did tow and get the extra car, and here he comes out of the pits, and he is actually still in the points. He is going to finish in the top 25, it looks like. There go the leaders. Where's Christian Ost? I think he's going to stay ahead of Christian Ost. Yeah, he's on the back of Jason Lynn and Evan Clavijo, so he's battling for position. He's still in this race. It's good to see they were able to get that car back out there. Aside from that crash and the incident with Ost and Breen, it's been a fairly clean race, a fairly quiet race. It's nice to see. 2 pit stops, 60 minutes. That's a lot of time, a lot of things that could go wrong. And we've mostly just seen people take little lawn mowing trips. Let's go through the Delta class here towards the end of the race. 5 minutes to go. Mackenzie's still holding that 6/10 second gap, so we'll keep an eye on that. Fuad Al-Rijla, he is in P2 in the Delta class. He's been doing a good job all day. Shelton going off track again. He is a lap down, so letting those cars by. But Al-Rijla trying to defend second from Kyle Murray and just trying to stay on the Delta podium because Spencer Clark is right there in P4 in the Delta class trying to get a Delta podium in, I believe this is his first Alpha Touring start. He's done a great job today, gained 10 spots. And Kyle Murray just trying to stay on the podium. He has done a good job today staying in contention in the Delta class. Franco is not, actually he's fallen a bit off these guys. I'm not sure what happened with him because he was really close to Spencer. Now he's 8 seconds off there, but he still had a great debut. He's still gained 13 positions since the start of the race. So he has absolutely cooked today. And you can only imagine where he would have ended up if he had just had a better round of qualifying because he started all the way back in 30th. Daniel Smith started in 20th, currently running 18th. The lone Veloster in the field. I think we need to give him a round of applause for dragging that thing out of the dustbin and putting it on display here. I say that like the Veloster isn't used a lot. It is, but it is a difficult car to drive, and typically not very many people's first preference. And since the series only allows you to make one car swap per season, it makes sense that not a whole lot of people put up with the Veloster because the Veloster can be good at certain tracks, but not the whole calendar for sure. Mackenzie's lead still holding at 5/10, so we'll continue going down the field. Joel Duton, he's in P19 today. He's gained 4 spots. He's had a great debut in the Martini Racing Elantra. And then it's always good to see someone have a nice clean. We've had several people today have clean debuts. Historically, that has not been the case in this series. It's actually a bit of an in-joke that your first start, you're probably going to have issues. But no, we've had some great performances by these rookies so far today. Kirk Lane, he's back this season with Bear Pope. He's gained 9 spots in this race so far, so nothing to complain about there. P7 in the Delta class. Right behind him is Brian Son. He's been involved in a ton of really close battles so far today. Adrian Fedorowski in 22nd. Anthony Harrison back in 23rd on his recovery drive. Then you have Jason Lynn in 24th on his recovery drive. Both those guys involved in early crashes, and both of them right next to each other at the end of the race. Christian Ost is a little further down the straightaway from them in 25th, also on a bit of a recovery. Evan Clavijo, he had some kind of issue at the start of the race that we didn't see. So he's running 26th. He's still gained 2 spots since the start. Brandon Schelt running in 27th. He's gained 7 spots in this race. You have Gunnar Schmidt. He hasn't made a whole lot of starts in the series, but it's nice to see him back in the Taco Bell Honda. Bright, pink, audacious. It's great to see. Spencer Cockane, a long-time series vet, but hasn't been seen in a while, so it's great to see him back on track with the Croc Hunters. Same with August Blondal, though he spent a lot of time with us last season, so it's nice to see him getting back into the swing of things. Rookie Jimmy Johns also had a pretty clean race from what we've seen. Just working on finding that pace. He's letting someone through right there. That is, I think, Spencer Cockane, actually. And then at the bottom of the order, Brian Saab, Jason Breen, and Mike Almeida all retired. I'm not sure we saw what happened to Brian Saab because he was battling with Brian Son for quite a bit in that race. Al Ridgely and Kyle Murray still battling through here. McKenzie should get the white flag next time by. He's going through Oak Tree now. Murray trying to get this final podium spot, and Spencer Clark looking to pick up the pieces maybe. Al Ridgely on the outside. It's Yart versus Motorsport Racing Team. Who's going to come out on top? Murray taking a very shallow line through there, but there's so much grip on the inside. It may work, but no, look at the power the Audi has out of that corner, and that is going great for Al Ridgely. He's going to hold on to that position, and Murray is just going to try and hold on against Spencer Clark, who's looking for a little move, but Murray holds the defensive line, and Clark thinks better of it, and these three are going to battle right to the end. They have not received the white flag yet, so they still have a little over a lap and a half to go. McKenzie is coming out of the final corner now to receive the white flag of this race. We were really close to only having 30 laps, but with 10 seconds left in the race, he's going to cross the line and start the final lap. 6/10 gap to Schenck behind. Then it's Carr, and Hendricks has not been able to keep up with this group at all. So we'll check back in on Al Ridgely through Oak Tree, Murray, and Clark right on his bumper, looking for those final podium spots. One of these guys is not going to be on the Delta podium. Who will it be? David Bauer has not only caught the SRG drivers. We said that 6/10 gap was big. Well, he caught and passed Bertolucci. He may not get to Mitchell. But now Bertolucci in trouble from Raymond too. So a couple of battles developing in the final closing minutes of this race. McKenzie through the S's on the final lap. He is about halfway through his final circuit around Virginia International Raceway. Murray side by side with Al Ridgely on exit of Hog Pen. Oh, they're gonna touch a little on the straightaway. They're feeling each other out. They're trying to squeeze each other down the straight. Al Ridgely knows he's in a bit of trouble. He doesn't have the advantage he did the last time they came into turn number 1. Let's see if he can hold it this time. It's gonna be Kyle Murray. Oh, but Al Ridgely with a big crossover, just cutting in front of Spencer Clark. That is some fun battling. And now Clark's just looking to see if he can do something to get on this Delta podium. It's great to see after Breen had a shot at the Delta win, at least one Yart driver is going to be on the Delta podium here. They're about to go through the S's, so we'll go back to Logan McKenzie. He comes out of Hog Pen. He had 3 wins last season. That was a career best since I believe season 1. He's going to start season 11 off equally strong with a victory here at Virginia International Raceway. He just missed out on the championship last season, and he has just delivered a message to Micah Hendricks and the rest that he's coming. Francois Schenck in second place, a great finish for him, and James Carr off the fuel strategy goes from P7 to P3 for a podium. It's a great drive from him. Hendricks P4, Lazon P5, Bauer's done, Bertolucci P6, and on the backstretch, it looks like Kyle Murray's pulling away from Al Ridgely, so he is going to secure that podium. Jacob Wally off of Hog Pen, he's going to bring home his first Delta victory in over 2 seasons. Breakfast for dinner, back on the top step in the Delta class, and Wally Welcome back to the Alpha Touring Challenge. What a re-debut, you could say. Great drive. And now Fuad Al-Rijla under pressure from Clark coming out of the final corner, but Clark just can't make it stick, and he's going to lose some time there. So Murray gets P2 in the Delta class, Al-Rijla P3, and Clark on debut P4 with 10 positions gained. Aguirre is P17 with 13 spots gained, a P5 in the Delta class. And the rest of the field is going to wrap it up now. Dutton, Lane, Son, all those guys wrapping it up. 1 hour and, we're 1 hour and 5 minutes in at this point. I'm exhausted. I'm sure these drivers are exhausted. The battle for the lead in both classes, close throughout most of the race. The final drivers come across now. It's the remaining two drivers are the Croc Hunters of Spencer Cockayne and August Blondal, and they will bring the checkered flag down here at VIR. We will be back in a moment to view the final results for the race. The first race of season 11 is done, and we are watching the Yellow Flag Motorsports drivers celebrating out in one of those grassy fields. There's a lot of grass here. Let's take a look at the final results for today's race. Starting at the top, McKenzie, Schink, and Carr are your Alpha podium sitters. Starting off the season strong, McKenzie and Schink both looking to challenge Hendricks for the championship this season after coming second and third respectively in season 10. And Carr back, and hopefully he can mount as much of a championship challenge as he did in season 9, where he came very close to winning that one. All three of them a worthy challenge of Hendricks, and certainly going to be very exciting to watch through the rest of the season. Jacob Wally opens his Delta campaign with a victory on top of that podium, along with Kyle Murray and Fuad Al-Rijla. I believe that's Al-Rijla's third Delta podium in the last 4 or 5 races, so he is on a streak of some very, very good finishes. Let's take a look at the rest of the results. That is it for today at VIR. McKenzie opens an early championship lead along with Jacob Wally in their respective classes. Next week, we go to Hockenheim for a shorter 45-minute race with one pit stop. We will see you then. Thank you for watching the Alpha Touring Challenge, and good night.